you still got a country of 1 billion people. This is also the world's factory. They are the ones that know how to make things. We don't make things in the United States anymore. The stroller that I ride my infant to daycare in, made in China. The children's books that I read to my kids at night, made in China. The ibuprofen that I give my daughter for her ear infections, active ingredients sourced from China. China makes all of these different products. It's incredibly powerful from that point of view. They have the know-how. I can make the case for China collapse and Chinese degradation. For me, everything they've accomplished so far, I wouldn't underestimate them. Relative to most geopolitical analysts, I'm actually pretty optimistic about China, and I wouldn't bet against China. That doesn't mean I would bet for it necessarily, but I certainly would not bet against it. People have been saying that China was going to collapse in on itself since literally the 1970s. Peter Zeihan has been out there saying that China is going to be collapsed from the inside since I worked with him at Stratfor in 2010, sort of like the coming war with Japan sort of model. I don't think we can overstate how big the problem China is facing. China it's supposed to be a communist country. It's a communist country in all but name. It's an incredibly unequal country in terms of wealth. The coastal cities that have enriched themselves in this period of globalization are some of the most cutting edge cities in the entire world. They make American cities look terrible by comparison. But you go into China's interior, you've got hundreds of millions of people who are still living on $7 to $10 a day or something like that, and whose livelihoods, they might as well be peasants from the 1970s and the 1980s. And the difficult thing that China has to do is it has to redistribute that wealth from the coast to the interior without A, the folks on the coast coming for Xi's head because they don't want to give up their money, and B, without doing it too slowly such that the peasants rise up and say, we want new leadership because we're not enjoying the same benefits that the rest of the Chinese population is enjoying. And that is, I think, why Xi Jinping has claimed dictatorial powers for himself, because he knows that this isn't going to work in the old sort of 30 year from 1990 to when he was elected or chosen in 2012, 2013. You can't just reform and open up and build things in China. Like, you've got problems in terms of wealth inequality, and communism is becoming delegitimized, and you have to inject a sense of national pride into China and a new mission into China. No country has really pulled this off. Japan is maybe the best example of a country that did it, and their way of doing it was their lost decades after the 1990s and the collapse of the Chinese stock bubble and real estate crisis. And China's starting at a much poorer base than Japan was in the 1990s. So it's an incredible feat that Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party has in front of it. Okay, that sounds all bad. The stuff that's good is you still got a country of 1 billion people. This is also the world's factory. They are the ones that know how to make things. We don't make things in the United States anymore. The stroller that I ride my infant to daycare in, made in China. The children's books that I read to my kids at night, made in China. The ibuprofen that I give my daughter for her ear infections, active ingredients sourced from China. China makes all of these different products. It's incredibly powerful from that point of view. They have the know-how. The second is, I know that people love to drone on about Chinese demographics, and it's true, their fertility rates suck and they're not going to be able to attract immigrants. But go back to what I said about that inequality. We have hundreds of millions of people here living on something like $7 to $10 a day. If you can make those people middle class, you don't need babies. All of those people will start buying air conditioning units and phones and strollers and all these other things. And the Chinese Communist Party wants those people to be buying made in Chinese goods, whether it's cars or the strollers or everything else. And then the other big cultural change that China has to engender in its people, and this is in some ways becoming the hardest for it to do, the Chinese people remember the chaos of the Mao regime, and they remember the civil wars and all the things that came before it. And so rightfully so, they don't trust stock markets. They don't trust bond markets. They don't trust the economy itself. They want to hide their money under a mattress, or they want to buy their 5th or 6th condo in a ghost city. And the Chinese government is trying to get the animal spirits of the average Chinese consumer to get out from underneath your bed. Go buy something from a company that was made in China. Don't buy another condo. Go play the Chinese stock market. We're going to have all these rules. So the Chinese stocks are going to do a lot better. And if you could get Chinese, like the average Chinese person investing in Chinese markets, well, then you could really have, you're off to the races. If you look at the performance of Indian markets over the past couple of years, the reason they keep on going up, even though Western observers are skeptical about it and maybe it's a bubble, it's because Indians themselves are buying stocks. Every rupee that they have is going into the stock market. So even as international observers are like, this looks a little long in the tooth, you've got 1 billion people coming online who want to buy stocks, who have got the stock bug. If you could do that in China,
Yeah.
I mean, you're off to the races. So I can make the case for China collapse and Chinese degradation. For me, everything they've accomplished so far, I wouldn't underestimate them. And I think that they have more going for them than most people recognize. And if they can metabolize these challenges and if they can get through them, then I think you really are looking at China not as the global hegemon. They don't want to be the global hegemon, but as the dominant player in East Asia, as the middle kingdom where everybody has to come and give tribute, where they are the ones that are calling the shots. Yeah, I think that's a very, very realistic phenomenon. And it's as simple as things like, who's going to make air conditioning units that are going to go into places like Japan and South Korea and India? Well, they're probably going to be made in China. Who's going to be making all of these products for the rest of the world? Even as demographics in the West are slowing down, we've still got lots of people coming online in Africa and other places. Like, those products are going to be made in China. And then if you get those Chinese people consuming those products as well, things are going to go well. And then the last thing I would just say, and this in some ways is a signpost for China, Chinese history is fairly cyclical. And you notice that strong central governments in China, when it starts to get away from them, it becomes very obvious. I think it's the Tang Dynasty, an old quote that is that the hills are high and the emperor is far away. Okay. And the idea that central authority is far away, and you get local warlords or local regions or local military leaders who are calling the shots. That's not the direction that China's going in. You're getting more centralization. You're getting more central control in the Chinese Communist Party. So if I get a signpost that says there really are true challenges to Xi Jinping's rule, the Chinese Communist Party is starting to come apart at the seams. If we start talking about regional leaders in China that are pushing policies that are maybe not in lockstep with what the central government does, okay, then I'm sitting up in my chair and I'm doing a mea culpa to Peter Zeihan and saying, I guess you were just a little bit early. But what I see is Xi Jinping collecting more and more and more power, and it's working. Right. Like, people are not defying the Chinese government, even in that real estate crisis that they had in the last couple of years. Yes, there were some blips and there were some protests that were pretty scary, but they solved it. People went back to work. People went back to paying their mortgages, and the Chinese Communist Party has become even stronger. So the stronger the central government becomes, the more I think we're at the beginning of a Chinese dynasty, not at the end of it.